Wow. That was quite a take, Gabe.
I practiced for like a week for this.
I don't think anybody can just pull Eric Johnson out of their back pocket. That's certainly a fact. But, oh my gosh, this amp
was made for him.
It was made for Eric Johnson. So if you are not aware of what the Manzamp Preamp and Odyssey concert amplifier Poweramp are, these were built for Eric Johnson by Howard Alexander Dumble. And to my knowledge, the Manzamp is a one-of-a-kind thing.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there.
And if there are, it seems like there's actually quite a bit of misinformation about what the Manzamp is. We have the Dumble book here,
which supposedly says it's a very clean platform, which, as you heard, this has a lot of overdrive.
It has quite a bit. And just to kind of show you, let's just take it sort of bare bones here so we can kind of give viewers a reference point. We have just the overdrive channel on right now.
Yeah.
And let's just hear, there's like a little bit of overdrive and then like going to some clean.
Straight clean.
Maybe we can kind of, I know one of my favorites, kind of that Eric Johnson lesson video that he did.
Hot licks.
Yeah. So maybe we'll put on just a little bit of delay here and maybe like a little bit of chorus, and you can flip between the overdrive and the clean tone just so we can kind of see what the difference is.
Yeah, let's do it.
That totally nails that tone. It's like all of the Eric Johnson signature sounds from clean to overdrive are inside of this combination of preamp and poweramp.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to preface, it's not that loud.
We're
right next to it, and we're not getting blown away by it.
It is astonishing. I can't emphasize how accurate sort of the built-in tones are, right? There's people who make pedals that emulate the Eric Johnson thing. It's almost like you don't really even need an overdrive pedal of any kind. And we're using a tube screamer here, all full disclosure.
And it's a standard, nothing crazy about it.
Nothing crazy. This is a standard reissue. And Eric Johnson also does use a TS-808 on his rig. And we're almost kind of using it almost as a tightening up for the lead sound. And so when you're hearing Cliffs of Dover, we did have a little bit of tube screamer engaged. Can we just show, just for, again, a reference point, what the overdrive sound is and then just what the tube screamer brings into play? It's not a huge difference, but it's subtle, but we want to make sure that it's known what was used
Totally.
here.
So here's a tone, just overdrive. Engage.
Good tone.
Yeah.
Good tone.
If you want a bit more, tube screamer.
I wouldn't say it's changing the fundamental character. I think it's the EQ's darkening it slightly because we do have the EQ down, and Eric Johnson might use a tube driver or something like that, or fuzz face, or even an Ibanez tube screamer.
And it gives the weight of the note just a bit more, maybe bottom end, a bit more oomph to it.
But I wouldn't say, again, fundamentally not changing what's going on here. And of course, if you wanted to add more drive, you wanted to saturate it more, you completely have that option.
Yeah, and very much like the past Dumble videos we shot, the amp's EQ is pretty standard. Only thing that's rolled off a bit is bass, because we have 412.
412 cab. So I think this is a good place to maybe talk about some of the specifics of what we have here. So the Manzamp, again, is a preamp. So in essence, if you were building a Dumble Overdrive Special, for example, it'd be everything from the input up to the point of the send of the effects loop is basically inside of this two-space rack unit. And then beneath it is a tube-driven spring reverb. And you have separate reverb controls for both the clean sound and the dirty sound. You have separate gain controls for the preamp gain and the drive. You have separate master volumes for the clean and the dirty. And then you have a shared EQ for treble, middle, bass across it. Then for the Poweramp, you have the Odyssey, which has volume and accent. There's also additional voicing knobs on the back of the amplifier, so you can even get further sorts of tone changes if you want it. You also have a bright switch. You have a mid switch, of course, the classic jazz rock. And then you can select whether you want to use the foot pedal to do the controlling of the amp as Gabe was doing it in and on and off, or you can elect to do all of the changes up on the face of the amp, including, again, the clean and the dirty by way of toggle switch.
What's unique about this amp is the foot switch has all these selections on the pedal.
Right. So the foot switch can mirror all of the selection switches that you see on the amplifier. So that's really handy if you actually are going to play with this amp in a studio.
You have full control at your foot.
Absolutely. And then we have two 212 Dumble cabinets. Now you see these are fairly unique in that they are not covered in any sort of suede or Tolex.
They look like furniture.
They look like furniture. They have sort of the classic Vox style grill cloth. One of the cabinets, the top one, has Celestian Blues, two of the Vox style Celestian Blues. The bottom two have Fane speakers that are in high watt.
Yeah, which is a very unique combination for this amplifier.
Very unique combination, but sounds absolutely brilliant with this particular combination of amplifier. So we've talked about Cliffs of Dover. We've heard some tones there that were absolutely spot on. I want to go into some different tones that are possible with the amplifier. What do you think is a good candidate for, let's say, an Eric Johnson song number 2 to maybe showcase more of what makes this amplifier great?
Let's take it back to the basics. Pure clean tone.
Pure clean. Okay, and what song do you think?
SRV.
SRV. All right. So classic song that Eric Johnson wrote for SRV upon his death. So let's hear what that one is. So what do you think we'll use in terms of effects? We have on the floor a Tube Screamer, Fuzz Face, Memory Man, TC Electronic, Stereo Chorus, a DD2, all effects that are Eric Johnson approved that he uses on his own rig.
So we'll do a bit of chorus. The delay will blend in nicely with the reverb and go straight to the clean channel.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's do it.
SRV. That's a great example of a clean tone and absolutely sounds incredible with this setup. Again, it is though I am sitting next to Eric Johnson. And it's not just that the playing is good. It's like the sound is really the sound. And again, this is like you got Eric Johnson built in to these two components. And it's absolutely great. I know that some people, though, of course, always complain in these sorts of videos that, well, you're hearing all these processing effects. You don't really know what the true clean tone sounds like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bypass both the chorus and the delay that we used here, which were the TC stereo chorus that Eric Johnson always uses, and a DD2, which also is something that Eric Johnson uses. And let's just hear the straight clean tone, no pedals. You're hearing some reverb that's built into the amp only. Let's just hear what that sounds like, just kind of playing a little section of SRV. Now I'm going to bring in the delay component. We're just going to see what that adds.
All right.
Very subtle. I mean, the mix on this is almost off.
Yeah, and it's blending in really nicely with the reverb.
With the reverb. And then the chorus, let's add in that part and then let's see what that component adds. Again, very subtle.
Yeah.
This, of most of the analog stereo choruses, I would say that the TC is probably one of the most sparse in terms of its impact on the sound.
I mean, you can hear it. Give it a bit of movement.
Little bit of movement, but it's not overpowering the amp. So I just wanted to make that clear. I know that people often are like, oh, there's effects being used. And again, this is in keeping with what we would hear with Eric Johnson. Again, an amp built for Eric Johnson. We want to use the right stuff. You know, so we've got all the right stuff here. We want to make sure that we're in keeping with that sound. I think we should go to another tune and just get another example of what makes this amp so great. What would be another Eric Johnson tune you think we could do for this that would make it, you know, make it really sing?
Let's go to Friends.
Friends. I love that one.
Continue with the clean tempo. We'll add a bit more intense chorus, a bit more delay, and get some of these really spread voicings where you can really hear how sounds like you're recording the amp already.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really, really nice.
It almost has like a mastered quality of like a guitar amp.
Especially on these last chords and how they sing. It's really nice.
So I'm going to add in Memory Man here, and I'm going to do about half speed of what the DD2 is.
Perfect.
So you're kind of getting, the combination of the two delays, leaving the chorus, maybe upping up the intensity a little bit on that and the width, and then we'll leave on the DD2. And let's see what we got.
Let's do it.
So Friends is certainly going to challenge your dexterity as
big time for this chord.
Right. Woo. You have to have some dexterity to reach all those notes. But again, it sounds like you're listening to an isolated track off of Friends. It absolutely nails this tone completely. I think we should get into another tune of Eric Johnson's to further show what is capable inside of this amp. We haven't touched the fuzz face yet, and that is certainly a quintessential Eric Johnson effect.
He has a signature fuzz face.
He has a signature fuzz face from Dunlop. Now, I don't have the signature fuzz face, but what I do have is a 71 fuzz face that's using silicon transistors, just like what you would find in the signature Eric Johnson fuzz. Now, I know he's used germanium and silicon over time, and you can even see before a gig, he'll be changing out fuzz faces to find the best one.
He's a bit of a tone nerd.
Bit of a tone nerd, as are we all. I want to try a little something, if we could, that involves a little bit of that. Any ideas of what we could go for on this one?
Desert Rose.
Desert Rose, and that's great too because it'll give us a little bit of an idea of the clean sound, and then go into the dirty.
Fuzz face in the clean channel, though.
Okay, so we're not going to go to the dirty channel on this. We're going to run fuzz face into clean. Now, I know that he's using more processing on kind of the rhythm part, so maybe I'll help you out so that you're not doing the tap dancing.
Perfect.
Eric Johnson has like his A/B selection so that he can turn this stuff off with one switch. So I'll turn off chorus and delay when you go to fuzz face.
Perfect.
Does that work? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Gabe, again, it's like we're hearing the recording in the room through the amplifier as though Eric Johnson is here. Again, I cannot emphasize enough for those of you who are watching this and just being in front of this. This is the Eric Johnson sound in a rig.
In front of us.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say about this particular amp is, Eric Johnson is still a pedal guy at the end of the day. And most Dumbles are not known to take pedals particularly well. We tried it with a tube screamer on the lead channel. It sounded gorgeous. We tried the fuzz on the clean channel. Sounded gorgeous. Of course, adding in any of this processing, whether it's the Deluxe Memory Man, the DD2, the chorus, all sounds incredible. I can't say enough great things about, if you are a fan of arguably the best clean tone ever, arguably the best lead tone in dirty rhythm ever, Eric Johnson, this is the amp.
Yeah, this is, if you're an Eric Johnson person, you should buy this amp.
There's really nothing I've heard, even, because I have the vintage Marshall Plexis, I have the vintage Fender amps from the mid-60s. And, those components, obviously, you would need a lot of things in order to equate
what this can do.
What this can do. It has the overdriven sound already built into it. And then, of course, you can shape that overdrive tone by way of the tube screamer. You can shape that by way of the fuzz face and the clean. And this adds some of your favorite sort of chorus delay. And, if you wanted to have the reverb on board the amp, you can do that. You can make it totally dry if you wanted that. It's all here.
There's a lot of options.
Many options. So if you are interested in this amplifier, it happens to be for sale from our good friends over at Techno Empire.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the listing for this amp below in the description. You can follow that if you're interested. You can ask questions of Techno Empire. If you have questions about the amp, you can also put that in the comments section. And Techno Empire will be active in the conversation as well, so they'll be able to answer questions. We're also happy to redirect to them if there's something that we need to get to them information-wise or question-wise that they are going to be able to help you with. Gabe, it has been an absolute pleasure to go through this iconic amp, the Dumble Manzamp Preamp and Odyssey Poweramp, an absolute one-of-a-kind combination. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you to play a little something just to fade us out.